Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special episode of RenCon Investigations. Today, I am here with TC Petty II, and we are discussing his father's work. Hello, TC. Thank you for joining me on this special episode. Thank you, sir.
Hello, thank you for having me on. I appreciate the intro.
Yes, you and your whole family, in fact, is rooted in game design. Is that correct?
Yeah, we have a long history of game designers in our family. I'm the second. I've just followed my dad's footsteps. It's all good.
Excellent, excellent. So, have you did you hang around the workshop when your father was working on games? What got you kind of interested in following in his footsteps?
Well, I mean, to be honest, my father did what he did, and I didn't really get into it until much later in life. So I
Hmm.
came back, got into board games again, and then just started picking up that design thing. I don't know what it is about it, but game design really gets me going.
It speaks to you from beyond, maybe. It's just kind of like a calling, maybe. So we understand that the game that we're currently talking about has been in development for quite some time. What are some reasons that a production like this might take multiple years and potentially even generations to come to fruition?
Well, my father's work is an ambitious project. So it's a game that takes place over the course of three different generations of a mad scientist family. So as you play, you'll play it in one sitting, but as you play, you will have one generation that dies off, and then the next generation will pick up right where you started, leaving behind anything that you've written down. But a lot of the other resources just kind of go away. So there's this balance between what do you want to leave behind to the next generation and what do you want to work on during your lifetime. And it's just it plays into that nice Victorian aspect because you have this three generation aspect. You're gonna have a story that plays
Hmm.
out differently every time depending on the decisions you make. And so each generation brings with it a new layout in the town, new resources to collect, new things to do, and new experiments to get involved in. So by the end, you have finally built up and are able to complete, hopefully, the masterwork that the original generation created, and now you've been able to pull it all the way from generation to generation to the end. It's a great if you like heavy medium to heavy Euro games, you'll enjoy this. And if you really want to have a thematic bent for it, right? If you want to have something cool and Frankenstein-y and gothic
Hmm.
to pull you into this world, it's going to have its own electronic storybook that takes you down the entire path and keeps that branching story path so it's different every single time. It's really cool.
Interesting. So the setting is going to be um, in a medieval castle or Victorian castle in the middle of nowhere, correct?
Yeah, so it's like the classic trope, right? You've got the Frankenstein castle on the hill, Castlevania style with the moon in the background. If you can just imagine, I mean, you're seeing some nice artwork from the game right now. But this is sort of the Vlad the Impaler style castle, the
Hmm.
Wallachia uh,
Okay.
inspired architecture, and yeah, you come back, get your own estate that is this thing, and you get to live in that world and be that person. Of course, it's taking liberties. It's back when we used to write about far off places that do actually exist and real people live there, but we assume they're exotic and some awesome things are happening. So this is about that time and about going back to the hills of Romania, the Carpathian Mountains in the background,
Mm.
and just enjoying the folklore aspect of that region and all the cool, gloomy, gothic stuff that's involved.
Now, do you think it's essential for someone who lives in such a place to hold the local village in fear, or do you think you should keep them at a distance? Like,
Well, I mean, I don't know. Especially today, you know, they've got beautiful hills. They've got like nice people living out there. I'm sure things are way different than they used to be. And even
hmm,
then, they were just a fantastical thing. So I would say, you know, hey, if you're living on a weird mansion on the hill, uh, you should probably just stay in your weird mansion on the hill. You know,
exactly.
don't need to come down. That's fine.
It's all good. It's all good up here. Leave us alone. Fair enough. So, with something like this, we hear a lot of designers, old and new, who talk about the theme first versus mechanics first. So which is the chicken and which is the egg in this particular omelet?
They are smashed so hard together. It's just like throwing an egg in a chicken's face. There's no that, you know, if you were to try to pick out why I did something in this game, it would have to be both at the same time, right? Like
Hmm.
there's no, this was not a game where I said, hey, I want to make a mechanical paradise, and it was not a game where I said, hey, I want to make um, I don't know, a thematic a thematic paradise, right? I just wanted to make a game that is missing, right? Like is
Hmm.
missing on the market, right? You have these games where you have a cool thematic presence, but you're missing out on the nice like mechanical stuff, you know, things
Right.
that give you that sort of entertainment that's on an intellectual level. And I wanted
Hmm.
to engage both aspects of that brain. And the cool part is that you not only get to engage in both parts of that brain, there's also social aspects of it. So uh, bringing an electronic app into it allows me to have some secrecy, and it'll keep track of things that the players won't know about. And that is very fun, especially for if you're looking for that sort of uh, making decisions that carry weight, that aren't just mechanical, they have story weight as well.
Interesting. So how much of the game is, say, mechanics versus story driven then? Okay.
50-50, right? And the story is very cool because it's one of the things, one of the cool aspects of this is there's a branching storyline that never comes back.
Hmm.
So you see that in a lot of stories in video games. You're like, there's so many possibilities, but really, there's like three options. They spread for a little bit, and then they come right back, and eventually you're playing the main story again. And then you have another option, and you go out a little bit, and then you come back, and you're playing the main story again. This is a true branching storyline. When you make a decision collectively as players, it's competitive. So when you make a decision as collectively players, it branches, never comes back. That branch is still there, and then it branches again, never comes back. So your decisions do matter. The story that you play will be different every time because of that. And yeah, every game you'll see about a third of what's in that little box. Like each box has a scenario, has a little box that has its own pieces, and you only see like a third of what's in there each time you play. So really cool.
So I'm also getting a sense that there's a lot of replayability potential. It's not going to be just a one and done or
No, yeah. I mean, if you play a single scenario and you're thinking, "Oh, this is a normal story game. I'll play that scenario once, maybe twice, get the same thing out of it."
Mhm.
You are sadly mistaken, because to get the exact same experience twice is really, really, really difficult.
Interesting.
Uh,
Interesting.
it's because the electronic portion adds in some things that don't happen every single time, and because of that, you're branching story decisions that you didn't even know that you weren't able to branch because they weren't offered to you in another game. So it's interesting because of that, right? You have all these cool little options you can do. just because you have a storybook that reacts to the decisions that you make.
So it's not just flip to passage X, read it, and then continue on your way. It's the game is flipping to X, learning what you did, and then choosing a branch after that. Interesting.
Exactly. And that's why it's taken forever to make.
It's a lot of branches.
A lot of branches and a lot of time and a lot of effort.
Excellent. So you talked a lot about like how to keep theme and story, and we talked a little bit about experiments, and we brushed by them. But I'd like to kind of spend the next chunk of our interview just kind of talking about a lot of these experiments themselves, because I think that these add a lot of theme to the game and, frankly, a little bit of humor, which I find fun. And there might be
nothing funny about science, true science.
There might be some meta in here too, which we can talk about.
Maybe, just a little bit, yeah.
Maybe, which brings me immediately to the stimulative research. I don't believe it could be in the petty family of games if it did not include coffee at some point.
That's something that who knows, that might be an intergenerational thing, but that is definitely something I love, just having a nice cup of coffee. And there's no way that I could resist adding at least some reference to it in the game. And so yeah, just sneaking a little bit in there. It doesn't have to be, it doesn't even say it. It does say coffee in the flavor text, but it doesn't even say it in the title. You wouldn't even know. It's just stimulative research.
Right. And it could be like 4 distinct coffee beans that are all various different shades that look very similar to each other, potentially.
Yep. And you could play a side game where you roll dice to create coffee blends. Mm-hmm. So it could be that, but it's not that, but it could be that.
Right. Is there any truth to the rumor that the Petty family established the whole roll and write genre with that said game? Is there any truth to that?
I would say some say that is true, and those people would be right.
Outstanding. So the next one I want to bring up here is the steam propulsion, and I'm very curious as to how one might conceivably increase the leap factor of the common house cat by 300%. More worrying is also with dire consequences. So I'm afraid to ask.
I don't think there's anything funny about this card. This is a perfectly reasonable experiment. No, so one of the things that I think is so good about these the time period, it's like back then, like anything was potentially a reason to do it. They would experiment on them. I mean, I don't know if you know about there's the inventor of homeopathy, right? He would just eat things that looked like other things and say that they were good for you. Like, so if you eat cauliflower, it helps your brain because it looks like a brain, obviously, right?
Sure.
So if you want if you like that the house cat is jumping really far, it's like, I mean, why wouldn't you add steam propulsion to it and just make it jump like 300 times more?
I just want to see the apparatus that gets strapped to the outside thing.
It would be cool to see a little cat walking around with mechanical enhancements.
Like a little steampunk cat walking around.
Yeah, a little steampunk cat. This game does have some like steampunk adjacent stuff, but we kind of stuck to that's like one aspect of it. You have I think one thing that we're not talking about it too with these experiments is that this is a engineering and probably engineering and biology experiment. I'm not sure. I'm not looking at the card right now, but and that means that you're going to have to you're using this to learn about biology or engineering. And so during the game, like the ones that are more steampunky adjacent are going to be the ones that have gears and have like engineering that are required, right? Like you're not just going to make a steampunk thing because of like, I don't know, chemistry. It's like, I guess maybe some steam in there, but it kind of stays thematic, right? It sticks with, if it's part of this discipline, it will stick with that discipline. So you don't just get steampunk, you get a mix.
Excellent. So moving on, the electromagnetism and virility. I find this one a little shocking because there is an obvious connection between electricity and romance. I don't think that applies if I scuff around the floor and zap my partner, though. I don't think that really works.
I don't know. I mean, that's up to you in the privacy of your own home. I will say that if people always talk about electrolytes, and I don't know about the energy portion of it, but if you have a lot of electrolytes in your system, you might be more virile. You might be more virile. You might be more attractive. It's like it'll bring out the rosiness in your skin, in all that salt.
So I won't look so pasty and pale as I live my life in my basement working away. Fair enough.
And I think to say that this is something that sadly is completely grounded in the time period. Both men and women were given treatments for virility using electroshock. At the time, they just considered it to be sort of like a form of curing hysteria. And, in general, they were just doing adult things to adult people.
Scary times.
So hey, definitely had the connection there, even though it seems like, why would they think that? But, hey, when you've got that spark of romance,
right.
you always feel like there is actual sparks. So more homeopathy. If you put electricity between two people, there must be a romantic connection.
There you go. The spark, if you will. So the
literal sparks.
The literal sparks. The metaphysical curse. I particularly like the text on this one. Almost unintentionally, I proceed to analyze the practical effects of verbally insulting the dead. So how do you do this without getting arrested in the graveyard for vulgarity?
Well, I think we all sort of verbally insult the dead at points in our life, even whenever we don't have to actually just stare at them. But I think in this case, we took that, the surreal quality of just yelling about like people that may be already dead, and actually just yelling in the face of a dead person. I like the idea that it was a play on curse as well. It's both, curse and also just cursing and just yelling things at people. But yeah. So I don't think this one's very effective. But just so you know, these are kind of experiments, this metaphysical curse, that you would do early to learn. So whether it's successful or not, you completed the experiment and now you've learned something. So did you learn? Did we all learn that shouting at dead people probably does nothing? Yes, but wow. Now we have that knowledge, and we're ready. We're ready to finish my father's work.
And a sore throat to boot, I'm sure.
Exactly.
So the impetus for the reverse fire extinguisher, I would like to know, like, is this based, is the military trying to acquire this technology at all, or is it like?
Well,
I don't know what the object of it is.
It is pretty useful when there's no fire nearby. I like that. Well, hey, all I can say is if there is something like a fire extinguisher, then it implies that there is a fire, like, unextinguisher.
So would that be a extinguisher? We would just call it a fire extinguisher?
Oh, yes. Yeah, a tinguisher?
Tinguisher, maybe?
So this would be a fire tinguisher.
There you go. Perhaps.
I don't know if I should change it. Think it should be a fire... I don't think anyone would get it.
No.
Fire tinguisher. Yeah, but, I think this is something that we have already. But, in the 18th or 19th century, 1800s, it was pretty cool to have a, a reverse fire extinguisher, I would think.
Yeah, I'm
Lighter.
certainly, yeah. I think it would be fun at all the parties. That's really where I think it comes into its own.
Yep.
The next one has me hearkening back to a very particular Gary Larson cartoon where there's a chalkboard on the wall of a mad scientist, and it has all these words written on it like milk, water, and it just has, they all have, they're all just written there until it gets to acid, and acid's actually crossed off. And the second half of the joke is that the other side of the board says, off a duck's back. So I just kind of think of that when I read the fire breathing eagle. Also note that you should add fire resistance on the next trial. So I kind of, yeah.
Yeah, I think this one, in all honesty, as much as I don't think fire breathing eagle is very funny, nor do I think this second part is funny. I just think it's mainly a commentary from me, because I always get really frustrated, like when the Human Torch or something like that, like they have this, or dragons even, like they have this ability to breathe fire, but like they literally don't have the ability to not get hurt by it. So they should just die.
They all self-consuming.
Like you have the ability, yeah, you have the ability to do it, but then you die. So yeah, that sort of thing has always carried with me as ridiculous, and it's the kind of thing that a mad scientist would do without really considering the consequences
right
beforehand.
Exactly. I mean, it's a lot of work to get all the piping right.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to make the fire breathing eagle. It's a lot harder to make the fire retardant also fire breathing eagle.
Yeah, because you'd be very heavy.
Everyone can agree.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and you can agree, and I think everyone can agree on that one.
Fair enough. The perfect evil laugh. Speaking of, infinitely repeatable at social gatherings. I think that it's, but it's also a bit of a telltone. Do you find this to be maybe a little stereotypical, or do you just think that this is a rite of passage?
So yeah, I would say this is something that isn't even a thing. It's like when you think of what cards would be in the game, it would need to be in the game. It's like one of those things that, like, it's not even, I don't even know if it's funny. All I know is that it's exactly what someone who would be working on these kinds of experiments would work towards. And right. You'd probably work towards it for a while.
Just like a little side note sitting off to the side, like perfect evil laugh tonight, like just a little bit.
Exactly. I mean, you can do this in between your experiments. You can do it during. I mean, it's great. It's a very, very effective experiment.
I also think it's one of the best role playing opportunities throughout the entire game. I think.
Well, hey, and I know we don't have this on the list here, but I will say you are very much encouraged in this game, especially when you gain. So during the course of the game, you might do some unsavory things, and you'll pick up a obsession card. Become obsessed with because of the things that you've done, and when you complete one, it has a special text for you to read, and every one of them is glorious mad science.
Nice.
And it's just wonderful. So a lot of this game is about reading out loud to other people, just for the flavor of it, right? You don't have to do it, but it makes it much more enjoyable. So for people who actually like perfecting their evil laugh, I think you'll enjoy just playing around with this game.
Yeah, I almost feel like we should have a contest while it's running to just see who can send in their best evil laugh. I'll have to talk to marketing about that. Yes.
I want to see their evil laugh as a progression over a month.
Like put in the time. Put in the time.
Yeah. I want to see your first evil laugh just attempt that's really bad, and then by the end of the month, you're just so good.
Excellent. So we talked a lot about the theme. We talked a lot about the setting and everything. So what do you think you would love to see be when you get done your game and you are sitting around and you're kind of doing the post-mortem, see what I did there, on the game, and you're just kind of, going over what you experienced? What would be, as the designer, what would be the best result you could have from a play group in that moment?
I think the best result is that they come out of it thinking they just played an awesome story. They just played an awesome game, had a really good time, but they get to the end of it and they go, well, that was cool, but I guess that's all there is in that story. And then and they think that the way they played it was the only way they could have played it. That they get to the end and it was such a satisfying ending and story and game and everything that they're just like, oh, well, that was good. I guess I got to go to the next scenario. And when they realize, and they go on, they either talk to someone else who's played it before, and they play, and they're like, so you remember when this thing happened and it was like that, and they go, what? That didn't happen. and they go, oh my God, there's like a whole other game I didn't even play yet, and they rush back and have to play. So I want to trick someone. I want someone to think that, like, that would be my perfect response, is that someone thinks that this was the only way the game could have played out, no matter what the choices they made, and I had just designed it for that one play experience. And when they realize that that's not the case, they go, oh, best game of all time.
There you
10
go.
out of 10.
Outstanding. So I want to thank you so much for making some time to talk with us about this and your rich history with this game and your livelihood. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I can't wait for it to be done. I can't wait for to see my father's work out in the wild and people playing it. It's going to be so great to just get a chance to sit back, watch people play. It's taken so long to make this that I just, it'll be the end of a long road. I'll finally be able to have a little bit of peace. And it's like, for people that have seen me work on this for a while, they know it's like, it's just been a monumental task. And finally getting that chance to just sit back, relax, enjoy people playing it. It'll be so great. I can't wait. But I've still got so much more to do. I've got so much that I want to focus on. So I just, it's like, I'm glad I gave this time to you, Chris, but I even shouldn't have. I should just be working on it right now.
You are, just in a different capacity, so we'll call it that. So
yeah, so a lot of hard work, but it's going to be worth it. I totally can see that whenever I get a chance to sit back and watch everybody play this is going to be so great.
Outstanding. So look for this coming soon. We will definitely let people know. We'll put some links around that you can find it, get signed up to know when it goes live, and you can get all the details, because this is going to be fabulous. I can't wait. I've been waiting for this. If anybody's followed me personally, for about 4 years now I've been waiting for this. So I'm excited.
Awesome.
Very.
Yes.
Excellent. So thank you so much. We'll let you get back to work. We'll let you get back to Renegade Con. And my name's been Chris Whitpan, joined by TC Petty II, and wish you a great evening.